And how does that play out in, say, 5 years, 10 years? Like, what do you think it'll look like in America in 2032? You mentioned the political landscape. I think Anthony Scaramucci, who's been on this show, runs Skybridge Capital. He recently said, I think it was 73 million Americans had exposure to crypto, and it takes 40 or 50 million just to elect someone. He reckoned the next president will be pro-crypto. So obviously we're seeing the government being more pro. A lot of groups, like you said, are seeing that maybe it's something that is non-discriminatory. But what does that look like then 5, 10 years from now in America and in countries you've talked about like Nigeria and Sudan and Ethiopia, which is a different reality, but still it's the same tool?
Yeah, well, Bitcoin and the whole industry that it spawns just gives people a different way of doing things. They don't have to sit there and participate in this system that props up just massive inequality and that serves up bailouts for the wealthy and the connected at the expense of the people. They can join a new movement, a new system, and I think they're going to. And I think it's just a matter of time. It's just a slow, gradual grind. But I think what likely starts to happen is that more companies, more corporations, more individuals, more nation states. We just had another nation state adopt Bitcoin in the Central African Republic. They'll see the promise. They'll want to be earlier. They'll get in, and it's just this wave, right? And I certainly want to do whatever I can to make sure human rights activists in the world are early in the wave and that grasp it first. Doing the Oslo Freedom Forum at the end of this month in May on the 23rd to 25th in Norway. And we're going to be gathering some of the most amazing human rights activists in the world. And we're going to have a Bitcoin component to the program so that they can learn from the world's best Bitcoin educators, because we want them to be equipped with this tool. We want them to use it, to fight, to in their quest for freedom. We want them to have this arrow in their quiver. It's very, very important to have knowledge of this tool. But I think that, at the individual level, at the micro level, it's just going to give people a way to protect their wealth and to protect their free speech, which is so, so important in this day and age. At the geopolitical level, I think that Bitcoin becomes the basically the numeraire. Eventually, it replaces the dollar essentially in terms of being what we all price energy in. Eventually, being the asset which central banks save in, being the premium financial collateral, the most dear financial collateral for the financial markets. I still think that, at least for the near to medium future, next few decades, that the fiat currencies are issued and exist. I just think they're more restrained because I think they're going to have to be, it's going to be sort of like the Bretton Woods thing, where you had the dollar, but you could redeem it for gold. It might be like that, where the US dollar has a value that can be redeemed for a certain amount of Bitcoin at any time, right? That's a possibility. The cool part is that it wouldn't just be foreign governments that have the privilege. Obviously individuals could just do it. And if the government starts messing around with the value of the dollar, there would be a black market that would emerge, right? So it's really interesting the way that it would check the government. But I think the governments will always issue debt and will still have fiat. I think it'll just be more restrained. And then over time, there may, just over many decades, it might emerge that Bitcoin is just the most elegant money there is, and maybe we don't have a use for fiats, right? And that's a very different world from today that no one can really speak about with authority, obviously. But the main difference thing to take away is that gold is a very bad medium of exchange. It's a great store of value. It honestly, the same amount of gold that bought you a loaf of bread in biblical times buys you a loaf of bread today. It has preserved purchasing power. I think the same amount of gold bought you a beer in ancient Rome as it buys you a beer today. Gold has preserved purchasing power because it has a very, very low inflation rate, and it can't just be, there's no alchemy, right? So the thing is, and it transfers value over time pretty well, but it's horrible at transferring value over space. It's a rock. You can't email it or whatever, obviously. And even pre-digital age, it was inconvenient because it was what are you going to do? Have this chest you're carrying around. So the cool part is Bitcoin is even better than gold at carrying value through time. And it's better than fiat at moving value through space, right? It's instant. Literally when you use the Lightning Network, it's astounding. It's if you're using a good wallet and the other person wherever in West Bank or Poland or Ukraine or wherever. I've done Bitcoin transactions using the Lightning Network in less than 3 seconds to people in Cuba, Palestine, Ukraine, all over China, and whatever. Like the network doesn't care about where they are. So I just think that's kind of remarkable. So we don't have to be constrained by like what history was like with the gold standard and how the gold standard, like, of course we like fiat would emerge because we needed fiat, because gold, you can't do daily commerce and modern finance with gold, right? Like it's a rock, like it doesn't work. So fiat was necessary because we needed something that was much faster and dynamic. Well, guess what? Bitcoin is even faster and more dynamic than fiat. So I think you're going to maybe get this future that borrows a little bit from the gold past in terms of having more restraint on governments, and there won't be one government that's like hugely privileged over the others, right? It'll be this natural balancing effect I mentioned at the beginning, where America, our currency is going to get less valuable and our rates are going to go up. But guess what? That means our exports are going to get a lot more competitive. We're going to be able to build stuff again. We're going to be able to onshore pharmaceuticals, cars, all kinds of stuff that have gone away. Like in the COVID crisis, Americans realized that we were reliant on China for like everything. This is horrible from like just nationalists should even understand this. It's crazy. So with a weaker currency that's not constrained by the burden of the reserve currency, of being the reserve currency of the world, the Triffin dilemma, if that goes away, we'll probably shift into a weaker currency, but we'll have a stronger export base. I think it'll be good for the average American. It'll be bad for the coastal elites. Yeah. If you've been getting rich off finance and defense and real estate, like that's going to slow down, I think. But I think the average person will benefit quite a bit. I'm looking forward to that. I mean, I think really you start to look at a world where everything's overinflated in value, like in purchasing power. Like gold, I think has a $10 trillion market cap. Only 2 trillion of it is industrial use. So the rest is just money, like store value. Real estate is an absurd market. I mean, totally inflated. In China, I think it's $60 trillion, Chinese real estate. I'm sure the market value of that's like 10, right? The rest is just money. People aren't actually living in it. It was used as money. It was used in it as a store of value or whatever, right? So I think that over the next decade or two, all that value from like real estate, not all of it, but a large amount of, obviously houses will always be valuable. It's just, I think they're overvalued in terms of purchasing power, like goods and services power. So I think you look at gold, real estate, and negative yielding government bonds. And I mean, this is currently the worst year in American history for bonds, which is crazy. But I think that's predictable. So negative yielding government bonds, even a lot of stocks that are overinflated, definitely real estate and gold. That's just all going to flow to Bitcoin over the coming decades as like the obviously best store of value that is also a medium of exchange. I think that's going to have incredible effects on the world.